welcome to This Week I'm Learning, the podcast where we relay to you the interesting things we've learned about during the week or in the minutes before the podcast. And yeah, this is episode 82, recorded March 14th, 2022, and I'm your host, Brandon Vader, and apparently I'm missing stuff in my intro because that didn't feel nearly as long, but yes, we're going to go with it this week because fuck time change. That's my hot take. Daylight savings time.
1/4 of us have to deal with that terrible thing.
It's just me now. Why?
You can choose to live. Well, actually, no.
Can I though?
Given your
There's
situation,
only one province in Canada. There's only one province in Canada that doesn't do the time change, and that's Saskatchewan. All the rest do it.
See, I would think it would make more sense for the Northwest Territories or Nunavut or,
to just be like, nope, this makes no sense.
It doesn't make sense to do it at all.
It doesn't.
Not anymore.
Yeah. See
Anywhere.
Our old episode
did.
on daylight saving, it did to a point. Again, see our old episode on daylight savings time.
Anyway,
yeah.
I probably need to introduce you guys now that we've had our little mini rant. Down below me, Colton Roper, also known as Secret 4761. In the corner adjacent to him, we have...
That's how many hats he has. Yeah, I'm bringing it back. I'm bringing it back. Yep.
Nice. Golf clap, sir. Golf clap.
Need more hats.
Do you need
but he
more
only
hats?
wears 3.
I do. It's true.
In the corner adjacent to him, we have Tim Rind, also known as Fake Farang. And then directly across from me, we have Cody Stratman, also known as Psychonitrous. How are all of you doing today? Because apparently I'm the off one today. For
just a normal day.
various reasons.
I know exactly what time it is. That's what my body knows.
You make me appreciate my sense of time more. So I'm doing very good.
Did they just change the time there? I can't remember
Sunday.
the date.
Yeah. So yesterday for us.
So this is the first miserable day of the spring forward existence, which is the worst of the two time changes.
So if I would have had to work yesterday, then that would have been my miserable, because it would have literally changed during my night. So I would have either had to go to bed an hour early to then wake up on time.
Never thought about, because I actually work overnight.
Night shift is terrible.
I always wondered, like, if you work overnights, how does that work for, like, do you have to work an extra hour, technically?
I asked that once.
Because we did night stalking.
City Market night stalking. And the answer I got from the direct manager was basically, shut up, who cares, get back to work. But when I asked corporate about it, they were like, oh, we manually adjust it. Because in the fall one, you will actually get an extra hour, and they have to manually subtract it from your time card. And then in the spring one, you lose an hour, so they manually add that hour back in.
So you still work until the time that the clock says, as the clock.
So you only get, so if you have an 8-hour shift, you only get paid for 7.
Yes.
Because you're only technically working 7 hours.
Yes.
Oh, okay. I guess I never thought about that.
Yeah, that is intriguing, and it's also like, it has weird knock-on effects as far as like airlines and stuff too. Like, when you board your flight, like, that sucks to be traveling at 2 a.m. on, what was it, Saturday or Sunday morning, when the time just goes bloop. Oh, your flight is now rather than an hour now. You are already late for your flight. It has already taken off. Enjoy.
Yep. I have heard stories of that actually happening, like someone who had a 1 a.m. flight and didn't take into account daylight savings time. And they, this was back before your cell phone automatically, had the time on it and stuff. So when he set his alarm in the hotel room, he set it for, 11 o'clock or whatever.
Or if you're
and then
booking connecting flights, it could be interesting too.
Oh yeah, no, it'd be terrible.
Yeah.
That's why if you're doing international flying, give yourself a 4-hour layover somewhere, just in case you miss your first domestic segment and you have to catch the next domestic segment. You can usually do that with a 4-hour layover. Not always. It depends on where you live. So when I lived in Alaska, it was easy to be able to work around it with a 4-hour layover on before my international segment.
And another pro tip there is book your travel all through one either cooperative group or one airline, because then if you miss a segment, they will rebook you rather than being like, well, you purchased a non-refundable ticket for your international
and that's a
flight
no-show.
and you missed it and you're a no-show, so you're
Yeah.
done.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yep.
And
I did that. I had a problem with that and I booked using an app called Hotwire, and they had terrible customer service.
oh yeah, all those.
So now all I use them for is finding the flights now, and then I'll either book directly or whatever.
Yeah, that's my recommendation, is to book directly, because then you have access to your ticketing information direct with the airline, and plus you're not going to get some sort of weird runaround where you may not get the miles that you're supposed to get and other stuff like that. Anyway,
You get
Yeah,
really
the
weird
problem
classes
was-
of service.
yeah.
Problem was the way the name was on the ticket as opposed to the way the name was on the passport, and it was for my wife because she has two different passports, and I booked on depends which passport I booked on, and so I got that her name's different on each passport, and I used the right passport, but I used the wrong name version, and it ended up an airline in Canada called WestJet. They ended up fighting with me fighting for me, because I couldn't get through to this U.S. company called Hotwire that wouldn't do a damn thing for me.
Yeah.
And I'm just saying, I just said U.S., not downgrading the U.S., just letting you know they're U.S. based. It's not
No,
like they're
yeah.
based somewhere over.
Everybody
in
in
the
the
middle of
U.S., they have ads constantly on TV, or they used to when I lived there. So
They still do.
most people know of them, and they're if they know about them, they're hearing that song in their head right now, and over.
Hotwire.com.
.com.
Definitely not an advertisement for them. So
Nope.
anyway,
We'll
don't
take their
use
money,
yeah.
but we'll take their money. All right.
I won't. No, I have standards. Colton will.
As long as I could tell people, hey, don't use these guys.
Yeah.
Or
Well-
if you know what, if they gave me money and were like, here, please experience the product, let us know what you think, and then if I told them, yeah, I'm not really digging it, here's what my issues are, I'd have a lot of respect for that.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like if there's a one-off scenario, like I can understand that, but yeah, if they let you experience the product, then give your full implementation, which means the company has to care about their product enough to actually risk doing that.
Yep.
But all of this is basically time change is evil. Let's stop doing it.
Agreed. All right. Now let's actually get into this episode, because it's a normal episode, I promise. Let's see. Cody is going to tell us ask us, is your TV too big? This may help. No, I want a bigger TV. I just
How about the biggest TV?
It's about how you use
just
it.
got a Switch. Not that the Switch is high quality, but I could use a bigger screen. Yeah. Okay.
Did I lose everything in my script?
I hope
No, I
not.
think you've got everything.
You sure? I think it's gone.
No,
Sorry.
but that's okay, because Tim is going to... I read that slightly wrong for a second. I'm going to reread this in my head. Tim is going to tell us, you better know your pinks.
Yeah.
Okay.
Bigger TVs,
And
pink.
Mm.
What kind of podcast is this, you dirty people?
For some reason, my notes have disappeared. I don't see I don't see the intro. Intros are gone.
Tell you what, I will go in and save.
You have to do it for me.
Yep. All right. Tim's voice. What's this all about? There we go. I'm Canadian now. I did have some poutine. Actually, I just had some poutine for breakfast. So
Breakfast of
Poutine
Champions.
is delicious.
anyway, Brandon, this me being Tim, is going to say, don't forget your WSLs, or I should say WSA.
I was expecting you to pronounce that Whizzle.
Whizzle or Wazza? Wazza?
Oh.
Okay.
But it's all right. Because it is an acronym, so that's fine.
Oh,
It's all
okay,
good.
sorry. Technical problem, I got it back.
Oh,
Operator error.
okay.
Okay.
No worries.
All right.
Okay.
Well,
so,
Cody,
let's
tell
go.
us, first of all, why would we want to shrink our TVs?
So when I was researching this specific topic, it was weird what came up that this technology was adapting because apparently people are having problems where their TVs are no longer fitting where they want their TVs to go. And you can't really deny that you've had that thought before of like, oh cool, I could put my TV here. Unless you live in a really big house, then you just don't care and you're going to modify the wall or whatever for its own TV. But in this situation, you might have a small space but want a big TV. So how about not even worrying about the TV and using a screenless display? So as I was searching for topics, I was like, what's new in the world? And like, oh, well, this is cool. I'm a fan of VR. I'm a fan of new display technologies. So what is a screenless display, first of all? And most of you, when you think about this, you're probably thinking about a subtype of one of the 3 different types of screenless displays. So the first subtype of screenless displays are visual image screenless displays. So really, they kind of have screens. So VR falls in this category, even though it technically is a screen in front of you, but it's still kind of categorized this. The next one that's kind of going further away from being a typical screen is what's called a HUD, or heads-up display. And this is becoming more common in vehicles, but it's still fairly uncommon. It is common in aircraft, though, and this is where you have a windshield or some other translucent material, and you have, or transparent even, and you have the screen projected into, basically, so it looks like it's in that window. So think about like a fighter jet, or even the Airbus aircraft actually have this type of screenless display that's inside of it. And then we get to the one that everybody thinks about when you say screenless display, which is holographic display. And this is using different types of lasers to actually create an image in space, which is pretty cool. And this is what most people think about. And this is still only one of the 3 different types of subcategories of screenless displays. So the other 2 types are even more intriguing than this. So the next, like, less out there type of screenless display is called a retinal display, not to be confused with the retina display. The retina display is a screen display. Retinal display is where you actually have the image beamed into your retina.
Sounds cancerific.
So,
there's an episode of Star Trek where they have that.
Now, what's cool about this is, as far as privacy concerns, nobody can really see what you're seeing because the image only exists on your eye. So nobody else around you is seeing that. But what you do have is you have to have something that beams it in. So kind of like Google Glass in a way. And there's a few different patents and companies that are working on this, but we're still a little ways away from it. And the next type of screenless display is one that's really out there. And the only person that I know of that's really working on this right now is kind of Elon Musk. And this type of display is called a synaptic interface display. So what this does is actually, it doesn't use any sort of light at all. It basically uses your brain waves to then process that and then make you see that without actually without beaming an image into you. It's actually done all within your own head.
Kind of like a hallucination.
Kind of. Which actually, that's an interesting point I didn't even think about. Is if somebody were to be implanted with something like this without realizing it. So it's like, you know how you would worry about, waking up in a bathtub full of ice and then, sutures on one or maybe both of your sides if you're really unlucky. Imagine like waking up and with like a cold pack on your head and then like starting to see weird things after that, or like advertisements.
Is the goal of that, is that the Neuralink thing that I've heard in the news recently?
Well,
regardless. Well, I guess I'll forget that. So is the idea there that like it's just a visual thing, or is it full sensory?
It's actually full sensory. Because
so reality wouldn't mean shit to you anymore.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so once you do this, you could get odors, you could get sound, you could get vibration, and then
revolutionize the porn industry.
The internet would get real interesting real quick.
Have any of you seen the movie Strange Days?
No.
Probably, but I can't.
No.
Watch it. It's weird. And it's basically like, what if you could save your memories, all of your feelings, smell, what you saw, felt, everything, and be able to replay that, either at your whim or let someone else experience a moment in your life.
That'd be interesting.
That would actually be really cool, because you would have so much more empathy. And would it be empathy still, or would it be empathy, or would it still be sympathy at that point?
Because you experienced it technically on some level.
So
you become the character in a book.
No,
yeah, so
sympathy is where you experience it.
No, sympathy is where you feel for somebody, but you've never experienced. Empathy is where you've had.
Pretty sure it's the other way around. Google to rescue.
99% sure that I'm right on that.
Yeah, I'm 99%
I think Cody's right.
Sure as well.
Pretty close.
Yeah, that's an intriguing
Definition
idea.
is not 100%, but
so unfortunately, most of the all of the articles that I pulled up on this were either a rehash or 2013, 2015 articles based off of this. So I don't know if any of these have actually gone further. A lot of them reference the Google Glass as being really the first type of close to retinal display. and then synaptic interface, the only one that I can really think of is the one that Elon Musk is working on, that I'm not sure if it's actually going into that realm of things or not. I imagine with what they're doing with it that they probably are exploring that a bit. But it's interesting to see where televisions, where screens might be in 10 to 20 years. Where we'll just
Or they won't
have...
be. Where they won't be, apparently.
Yeah, that's a good point. And like some interesting things is walking around Thailand, and maybe they have these in the cities in the U.S. too, is a lot of places will have these weird like mini projectors. Well, they'll project like images like on the sidewalk and stuff as you're walking around, and it's like that's cool, interesting. It's like a new way of decorating your business by just doing this with light. So like just light decoration might be a bigger thing in the future too, without having to repaint your house when you can just project the image of paint on your house, depending on the expense of that.
Why even have a house? Just project a house.
Because
For millennials, it's probably how it's going to be.
I mean, here's the thing, though.
I live in a 5-bedroom house, baby. Just because I'm naked here in the field.
I guess with the brain, you could be sitting in your house that's projected by light, and it could be raining, but you wouldn't feel the rain. You could feel a hot summer day, like as you're sitting in a blizzard, and then dying.
Matrix, baby.
Oh man,
Definitely dying.
that would be a weird way of like committing homicide. That would be a
Give someone the warm fuzzies.
That would be
Okay,
like the
my
most...
mind goes to porn. Cody's goes to homicide. I don't know who's sicker.
No, I mean that would be like the most weird, like evil way of doing. This is like James Bond level villainy, where it's like the old school James Bond before Daniel Craig had to because Daniel Craig's version of James Bond villains would never do this because it's too complicated, where you would like implant somebody with the brain, basically the synaptic display and the synaptic feeling, and then basically control what they feel and see slowly until like they do something. Yeah,
Kind of a weird Inception like shit. But
you could create a workforce of like mindless robots that think they're doing something else but are actually doing one thing.
Yeah,
Man, the future is dark.
Why wouldn't you just basically sever their mind from their body and just be like, look, you can do whatever you want, but your real physical body is gonna just lug coal over this hill.
Yep. Now, what's actually okay when we get away from the dark part of the universe of thought, where
a new chapter of fake
also
news.
known as the current timeline. Anyways, go on.
Where this becomes really cool, especially for the synaptic interface, is blind people who can't see.
Yep.
Now you can make them see, or even deaf people that can't hear. You can now give everybody their senses back because you're controlling it directly into their brain. So that part about it is really cool. Or people that have issues like that, you could really extend their lives.
Improve their quality of life for sure.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway,
Put somebody in. Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, that's what I looked up this week.
For somebody who's lost an arm or leg, you could basically have sensors on it to mimic the sense, and you could get that mental ability to know what the heck is that?
Ghosting
term.
or something.
Well, so it would
Where
feel
you
like
still
your
feel
leg's
it's still there.
Phantom limb.
That's
Yeah.
Wait, that's the name
that's
of
not
a-
what I was. That's the bad thing. But
Yeah.
like, they would be able to feel where their leg is
Yeah.
at in proportion to
It could
their
be like an add-on to,
rest
add-on
of
to
the
an
body.
artificial
so you're saying
leg,
with a
just like the
combined with a prosthetic.
Yes.
I thought you were
Combined
just
with a
saying like
prosthetic.
let people think they still have an arm. I'm like, Brandon, that doesn't
No.
solve. That's horrible. That's even worse. Reality still is reality. They're trying to grab
Equivalent would
something
be-
like that would be so weird.
The equivalent
God,
would be
that'd
like
just be horrible.
Geordie's
God, try it, like-
visor in Star Trek.
God, it would make
Oh yeah.
yeah.
What? Yeah, this has so many weird applications. Like on the side of good, you could have people being able. Imagine being taught with a synaptic interface. Like a lot of concepts that are very abstract. You could now, with a good enough teacher, be able to visualize and feel those concepts. Brandon, stop going in the weird negative way when I say all of these things. You're taking every single word I say as the dark timeline or as the creepy
Current
timeline.
That's what would
We
happen.
could put you right into
So-
into a movie. You know, be it a horror movie, a science fiction movie. You could be like a spectator right in the movie. That would
Honestly,
make
teaching
cool
history would be very interesting.
It would be. It would also be interesting for a certain community that we touched briefly on with the living tale from a couple weeks ago.
You don't even need the living tail anymore. Oh,
Yep.
all right.
Cyberpunk, baby.
Tim, can you tell us about various shades of the color pink, please? I don't because
you know,
I
it's
don't
not
know
gonna
if
be
this
what you
is gonna make
think it is.
this
Beam
good.
it, beam it into our brains.
You can look at my background. Maybe you have a slightly better idea.
Asbestos.
But here it is. In Thailand, there's some things that are not available, or if available, they're very expensive because you have to import them, and sometimes they put a whack of tax on it in addition to the cost. So one of those things that I do is I roast my own coffee beans, because green coffee beans are pretty cheap here, so I roast my own coffee. But another one is cold cuts and bacon and such. Very expensive, and as far as bacon, it's not always, the locally made one is not always that good. So I'm getting into something I did before, but I used to do it a different way, and I've learned a different way. So what I'm going down a rabbit hole is I'm starting off with making bacon, but I eventually want to make my own pepperonis and salamis and other types of cold cuts like that. If you go into a store here and try to buy some salami or pepperoni to make your own pizza, you got to take out a bank loan.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
incredibly expensive.
Like pepperoni.
Okay, is it
at
really
the-
expensive or is it
No.
expensive for Thailand?
$60
No.
for a thing of
Okay.
pepperoni.
Thin
Yeah.
slices, and only probably about 12 of them.
Yeah, now you can find there are ways around this, but you have to go to obscure stores. Like if you go to a top supermarket, so basically a foreigner-oriented supermarket here, it's like it 2,000 baht, so $60 for a thing of pepperoni.
Yeah,
So-
and
so-
I'm not talking like a full stick either. You're talking
Yeah.
probably about
Like,
this much if you
yeah.
put the slices togetger.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Now,
Anyway,
granted, if I go to the pizza place here in Bangkok, I can get the same thing for a lot cheaper than that. But it's still expensive, and that's me being in Bangkok having access to that. So there are some stores where you can get around this, but you have to like find the specialized store to get around this. Where, yeah, Tim, if you haven't checked out nannies in Hua Hin yet for
Yeah, I have, yeah.
some of this stuff, okay, cool.
Yeah.
And
Anyway,
I
so
hope
one
you're
of the
not
things
talking about pink slime.
No. One of the things I've started with, and I want to move on to pepperonis as well. but that involves. I'm going to try to keep this brief. There's a lot of technical stuff to it actually. But so I started with something that's very simple that you guys might even want to try to do at home. It's well worth it, and that's just making your own bacon. Uh, Previously, when I made bacon at home, I would find it'd be way too salty because all the instructions they tell you how to make your cure, but and then you put on your cure. But now they what they go with is called an equilibrium cure, and what a cure is, it's basically a salt, and it's mixed, and there's a small amount of what they call pink salt. Now there's two different types of pink salt. You might know pink salt number one is cure number one, Prague powder number one. It's not Himalayan salt. Pink salt you use for meats that you're going to keep less than 30 days typically, which is like a bacon. Pink salt number two is used for meats that you're going to keep longer than 30 days. That's your salamis and so on. And I'll get into how you make those types of meats. But the easiest meats to start off with are things like bacon, Canadian bacon, back bacon, and they all use a pink salt. And the pink salt is actually a mixture of salt, mostly salt, and 6.25% of that salt would be sodium nitrite. Pink salt number two is sodium nitrite, 5.67%, and sodium nitrate, 3.63%. And a lot of people cringe when they hear those two words, but the studies that used to say, "Oh, it's really, really bad for you," some of those studies now discovered to be very flawed studies, and they're very old studies.
I have a
And
question.
the other thing about it, if you use it safely, the problem is a lot of the old recipes and the way some people do it, if they don't do it equilibrium, is they're using too much of the pink salt. And the other thing is, if you can avoid cooking at a high temperature, and there's a way of cooking bacon where you can reduce it, you can still get crispy bacon, and not cook it at a high temperature.
Can you
so
repeat
it's safe that way as well.
Can you repeat
what?
the amounts, the percentages? Because I thought I heard sodium nitrate 2 times.
So no, this pink salt number two. Pink salt is only sodium nitrate and salt. Pink salt number two is sodium nitrite and sodium nitrate.
Oh, okay.
With
Nitrate. Okay.
Yeah, that's the one for use for more than 40 days, like for your salamis and some of this. Some of these meats you hang them for over a year. But anyways, so to make the bacon, to do an equilibrium method, it basically means that you should cure it usually for bacon about 7 days. But if you left it in there for 14 days, you're not going to get any saltier because you've calculate the right amount. And usually 2% of the weight of the meat, which is always better to use it in grams because you make your calculation a lot easier. Up to 2 to 2.5%. And of that 2 to 2.5%, pink curing salt is only 0.25%. So it's not very much. And then you can use your spices are up to you what spices you want to use. So I've made one bacon already, and I got another 2 batches on the go, and I got to tell you, it's absolutely amazing. Now I want to build a smoker, and that's not very hard to do. All you need is anything that will burn sawdust or wood pellets or wood shavings, and it just has to be a cabinet. Where you can almost make it out of cardboard if you want to do a cold smoking cabinet. So that's one of my projects that I'm going to be doing. Now I want to do fermented type sausage such as salami, and how those are made is you actually ferment them for the first couple of days. Usually you add a fermenting agent to it so you can get the right type of fermentation. Here in Thailand they do fermented foods as well, but they don't really add. All they pretty well add is a sticky rice paste to it, and that is what
you're talking about, like the nam pla and
yeah.
pla.
But the thing is, if you're going to do something like fermenting and these other things, these dry aging, dry curing, you pretty well want to use the pink salt to prevent botulism. And that's the benefit of it. It's also a flavor that we are used to. Plus, it also will, when you take the bacon out or your salami, it will look red instead of gray. Okay. The thing is, if you want to, you can pass on pink salt for bacon because you eat it pretty fast. You know, it's you cure it in the refrigerator. Most of these things you start off by curing them in the refrigerator. Curing means now doing an equilibrium cure. You mix your salt and your pink salt to the percentages that I told you, and then you add any spices or sugar to the percentages that are also available, and you rub it on. You make sure you use all of it, and then you put it in the refrigerator for 7 to 14 days, depending on the thickness. Now for bacon, all you've got to do is at 200 degrees Fahrenheit, you cook it until it's 145 degrees. You can also smoke it during that period if you wish, but it's not necessary. You still get a great bacon if you don't smoke it. And same thing with back bacon or Canadian bacon. And then you're ready. You put it back in the refrigerator and you consume it or you freeze it. So you can get by without using the pink salt. It's just not going to look as nice, and it will taste slightly different because we are used to eating bacon that's has sodium nitrate in it. Yep. So that anyways, getting back to fermenting. So what you do is you put it in a fermentation cabinet, certain temperature, certain humidity, because it has to be, I think, a 60% to humidity. 60-80% humidity in order so that it will dry evenly, because what can happen with salamis or any of those Italian charcuteries is if it dries too much on the outside, it'll form a crust and then it won't dry properly on the inside. Okay, and that can be a problem. So I looked up the prices of a drying cabinet here in Thailand. And it's about $4,000 US.
Whoa!
So that's not going to be in my market, but you can make one very easily, and something I could provide links, but it's something easy to find. I'll provide links to 2 YouTube channels that I really enjoy. You just need a refrigerator, and then there's a sensor. There's a company called Inkbird that makes humidity sensor and a temperature sensor, and it will turn your fridge on and off. So you use one, and what you do is you get a used fridge or a new fridge. It shouldn't be an expensive one. And you put inside of it, you put a small humidifier and a small dehumidifier. One controller will control those 2 devices. So now you have humidity controlled. And the other controller will turn on or off the fridge to maintain the temperature. And the temperature you got to maintain is between, say, 50 and 61 degrees Fahrenheit. So we're not talking about it being on a long time. Yeah. And the timer has compressor settings so that you don't get into that back seesaw action. So you can also set a 3 degree plus or minus from the goal temperature, so it's not coming on off. If you set your tolerance too low, like 1 degree, your fridge is going to turn on and it's going to turn off. It's going to be fighting itself. So these things are available, and they're only about, you can get both of them total for 3,000 baht here in Thailand.
So $100
and you've
US
got
dollars.
Yeah, and now you've got the controllers for humidity and for the temperature. So that hopefully in a year I'll have a drying cabinet, and I'll be making some of my own salamis and pepperonis. Another thing about the fermentation.
I can sell that
I'm
stuff,
going backwards
honestly.
now. Yeah, for doing fermentation, this is probably the most dangerous part of making this type of charcuterie that wants fermentation. But you can remedy that by using a pH meter. The pH meter will tell you if there's enough fermentation or if you've gone too far. There's a safety zone. And so if you get a pH meter or pH strips, you can do it the hard way. You can determine whether you fermented your meats enough, and then from fermentation, then you bring it into the dry curing. And dry curing, typically, you want to get it to be 30%, to lose 30% of its water weight, 30% to 40% of its water weight, and then you can know that your recipe is done. But some of these, and some of them go as far as they brush on penicillin mold onto the outside, and then you'll see these things have this white coating on them, and then they peel off the skin or whatever tubing they put into it. So anyways, that's my long-term goal. But my near-term thing I'm going to start getting into is making sausages. For example, something as simple as a good breakfast sausage is sometimes hard to find here. You can find it, but it's getting easier. But I've already got a sausage stuffer sitting in my other room. I've got a meat grinder, and I just ordered casings off of Lazada, Cody, and it's so easy to make. But I recommend if you guys want to start easy, you start with bacon. It is so easy. Be very careful with any recipe that doesn't give it to you in grams. I can give you the basic recipe. There's a site, and it even has a calculator on it. You'll weigh your meat, and it'll tell you how much salt, how much pink curing salt, how much sugar if you want to use sugar in it. And basically that basic cure you can use for any meat. It doesn't have to be bacon. So I'm going to use for back baking. Back baking is basically just a pork loin, and pork loins aren't expensive. And so you can cure the best way is also a dry. There's two different equilibrium cures. There's the wet cure, there's a brine, or there's a dry rub. The dry rub is definitely recommended. Typically what you buy in the market, bacon has been done in a wet brine. But if you compare the two flavors between the two of them, the dry is much better. If you follow those other recipes, basically they make their cure to the right percentages, but then they just pile the cure on. They don't weigh out how much cure they're using. They just smother it. So typically what you'll get is a bacon or something that's very salty. And if you do get that, you can recover it from it, and then you got to soak it to take out the salt. So like why do it that way? Do it right the first way. Anyway, so that's the thing I've been learning this week and refining.
Yeah, I look forward to trying some like breakfast sausages and pepperoni, because there's two different breakfast restaurants that I go to in Bangkok, because they both have good breakfast sausage,
right?
Which is very difficult to find here. There's as far as like traditional American Canadian breakfast sausage.
The thing I'm having a hard time finding is sage.
That makes sense.
Sage, yeah. That's one of the spices for breakfast sausage.
Yeah.
More of a Western spice.
And maple, too. I would imagine maple would be difficult to find here as well.
Yeah, you can get maple syrup, but you're going to be paying a fortune. It's not like when you can go back home into Costco and buy it for $10 or something like that for a jug.
Gallon drum.
Yeah, so I don't think I'm going to use maple. I mean, I don't use maple in breakfast sausage, mind you, but it's things like thyme, sage. It's basically almost a poultry seasoning, basically, what you use in breakfast sausage.
I guess that's cool.
So,
Tim's becoming cool. Like the do-it-yourself wizard of like all types of food here.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. Like doing my coffee is fun. I'm sure that a real coffee connoisseur would cringe at the way I do my coffee, roast my coffee beans, but it's good enough for my palate. But doing sausages, I used to do that at home, and there's so many different recipes, so I'm going to do a bunch of those. It not only saves money, but I think you get a better product. and the bacon is incredible. The bacon is better, and it definitely saves money.
Yeah, for anybody who has not been to Thailand and who has not eaten bacon at 90%, actually 99% of the places that serve bacon here, there is something that
breakfast.
resembles the look of bacon, and you will pick it up, and it is the same thickness as bacon, typically. It's not the see-through terrible stuff we had at that one Hilton in Boston.
Boston.
You could see through the bacon there. But in Thailand, when you go, oh, bacon, because everybody has a, not everybody, but most people, when you think about bacon, you have this flavor in your head that's embedded in your head. And you're like, and the flavor does not match what you have in head. It's like the bacon never had the soul put into it, or the soul was stripped out of the bacon.
Yeah.
And it is bacon, it is pork. It is not bacon.
In most restaurants, you go for what they call a Western breakfast. They put these terrible, terrible, terrible flavored Thai hot dogs.
Yeah,
To replace the bacon.
The chicken
can't
hot
stand
dog. Yeah, there are a few exceptions. There are some places that if you move to Thailand, after a while you will learn those places and you will become regulars at those places,
Yeah.
or you will go to German restaurants to get
Good
their
sausage.
their sausages
Yeah.
there. That, but you're absolutely right, Tim. Like anybody who's lived here has realized that the bacon is without soul.
And if you go into the store, you can get you grocery store, you can get bacon, but I think you're going to pay about 300 baht for a pound of bacon. And I'll tell you, I've cooked it up, and they must inject it with a lot of water because it shrinks down to nothing.
Okay.
And yeah, so it's hard. There are a couple of good brands, but they're not that good.
Yeah.
They're not good. So you got to do it yourself, and I got time. So I got a whole side of pork belly bacon coming out of the fridge tomorrow.
This is awesome.
I'll send you photos when it's done.
Okay, I'm gonna have to go visit Chomps in 7 to 14 days. Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Have to visit in 7 to 14 days.
It's basically 7 days per inch of the meat.
Okay.
Yeah.
42
And-
days then.
Sorry. I
Stupid joke.
check my notes and
That is
do
so
my.
stupid. I am such a child,
so-
anyways.
So if there's no other questions, they'll go on to Brandon.
Okay.
Okay, Brandon's
very
tagline is
interesting.
"Don't forget your WSL," or should I say WSA? Well, I can't debate that because I don't know what WSL is.
Yeah,
So-
Don't forget your WSL,
Windows-
or should I say WSA? Okay.
WSL is Windows subsystem for Linux. WSA is Windows subsystem for Android.
Ah,
So on February 15th, the Amazon App Store for Windows was released to the general public, though it's still in preview. Initially, there was access to about 50 apps. Now that number is over 2,000. I counted to 2,000, gave up after scrolling down for a little bit longer. So there's a lot in there. There's some problems, though. First, the Amazon App Store is not well curated. Here, let me show you. If you are watching us, I will show you what it looks like. That right there. That is the first curated look that you see upon opening the app.
I see one thing on there that should be on that list, on a curated list, and it's the Kindle app.
Yeah,
Everything
it's
else
Amazon's
is bullshit.
Oh yeah.
own.
I mean, come
Yeah.
on, you don't want to book your United flight through the app on your computer, or have your boarding pass on your computer?
Well, let me open that up in front of TSA. It'd be like, hey, scan my
have-
laptop, please.
Do you have a screenless screen that I could plug my computer into? please. It's in my
that would be
eye.
interesting.
Here, let me
Here's
press
my
my tongue
boarding
to the
pass.
Yeah,
electrode.
scan my eye. Yeah.
Or yeah. Oh,
Yeah, it's just
I'll give you
it's a
some bacon.
disappointment.
Homemade bacon, please. It's better.
Yeah. So when you get into the all apps, because as you see, there's only over here, all apps and games. So you would assume that there's going to be some productivity apps or something.
in all apps, not Project Makeover, Toka Life, Toka
To be
Life
fair,
Neighborhood.
My Talking
Wow,
Tom
Toka Life.
2 is a generational app. So
Okay,
I got nothing. That's the only one I recognize at all.
I have something about that. There's 4 different Talking Tom apps with similar stylings, names, and purposes. But are they even relevant anymore? And how hard is it to curate better content? I mean, this is
Are
an
all of
issue
these
I have with
games-
all of the app stores.
These are unbelievably trash
Oh yeah.
games.
Okay, so
Horribly
this is
trash.
your company going, I'm going to release 50 apps, and hopefully somebody will download 3 of the
One or
apps.
them.
Yeah, maybe.
There's some executive be
they're
like,
flooding it.
fucking Project Makeover better be in there. And if it's not, you're all fired. First one.
Yeah. Oh
Terrible.
yeah. But notice how there's no like utilities, productivity.
No, it's all kitty
Yeah,
things.
yeah, it's all games
It's-
in the all apps section, but you can't filter out the games. And even at the top, it says search apps and games. There's no way to be like, hey, give me, because there's a lot of productivity apps, or there's a lot of like things on your computer that you could use that, like, for instance, one of the things that I use to record this podcast with is called Audacity, which could maybe sound like a game too. And if I had to filter through 42 versions of a stupid game in order to find my productivity app, I would call that a failure. So
There's a good Wi-Fi spectrum analyzer that was only available on Android. I can't remember the name of it right now, but
That would be
yeah.
useful to
Yeah,
have.
but that would
it very
potentially,
and it
but you're
wasn't
not going to be
available
able to
on
find it
iOS,
because it's all games.
But
well.
I
and
have
here's the
one
other
just called
problem is-
Wi-Fi Analyzer Premium.
Yep.
Yeah.
The other problem with that is, so this is the Amazon App Store.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't have any Play Store.
It would have Google
tie-ins.
Apps, doesn't it?
Doesn't have any of the Google apps.
Doesn't-
So a lot of the super popular stuff just isn't going to play even if you sideload it. Which you can sideload things. It's just kind of not fun to do. But yeah, and there are people who have created this like third-party filter layer to send all of their requests through to Google. But that's a really dangerous idea, to enter your username and password for your Google account into a third-party application.
Oh God.
Just to use your
Oh, that
apps
could
on
have
your
so
fucking
many-
computer. At some point,
Yeah.
just use your phone. It's fine.
Use your phone. Literally. The app.
Your phone.
It works great. Yeah.
So silly.
It's
Trillion-dollar
it's silly.
companies can't
what about for Linux?
make a basic thing, honestly. It blows my mind sometimes. Amazon and Microsoft can't get their shit together because they can't play well with Google.
Microsoft's a little bit better than Amazon about this, but
Obviously
But,
not, because this is the product they gave. I'm just saying.
no, I said Microsoft is better.
Yeah,
than
this is on
Amazon,
my.
But the,
Wait, is this? You
It's
said
on
is this
Microsoft
Linux?
Amazon.
too. It's Amazon, but it's Windows.
Yeah,
This
yeah,
is
but-
to do it
Microsoft.
on your Windows computer.
okay, so what about Tim was saying? What about the Linux experience then?
Oh, it's the Linux experience is good. You can install. You can even have it open like Windows, like Linux, Windows running Linux applications, and share files between the operating systems. Yeah, it's fantastic.
Good.
But
The open
yeah,
source
so far the
nerd in the basement who's
example of
randomly
that?
coding shit makes a better product.
yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, because the nerd in the basement cares about what the user wants.
Making
Again,
the
this is like a basic business model like issue of give the customer what they want rather than what you want the customer to want. Is what's
You're like
happening with
you're already asking
Amazon.
the type of people that would be possibly into this type of stuff aren't going to care about using this stuff. So you have to make it an experience that they would want, and you're not even making it.
Yep.
Yep.
That's you basically stole my closing line there.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
That's all right.
Colton,
Yeah,
just do
it's-
Brandon's topic. You're Brandon's topic now. You
That's why
go.
I'm not, I'll just shut up.
So one of the interesting things is, what do you guys think use case would be for this? Like, what would you guys use Android apps on your PC for?
Like as a streamer, there are some Android games that are through Google Play that would probably stream to like Twitch or something. Or emulate, or yeah, that's probably what I would use them for. I can't really think of any productivity apps that I feel like I'd have to use on my computer that don't already have a Windows equivalent or online, like maybe like My Radar for like weather, but I could just go online and search a million other things too for that.
Kindle. The Kindle app for Windows, if I remember correctly, is complete trash. So maybe using the Android Kindle version on Windows might be a better experience than using the Windows Kindle for Windows. Other than that, what Colton touched on is games. So I'm looking at my phone right now as I'm doing this. And what Tim suggested, maybe, it would be onesie, twosie stuff. There's not really a good... because again, most of these companies that make the really good apps
Instagram.
have there we go. Instagram to get past Instagram stupidity. So now again, you're using something in a way
Still a
that it
third
wasn't
way
meant
to get
to
around.
be used to get past its thing. So this is my resounding opinion of this. Like, the major players in the industry right now is this sound effect.
Why are you making it harder for us to give you money? We have money. Well, not all of us, but some people have money and they want to give you money, but you make it hard to give them money by
This
not
is-
giving.
Here's exactly. That's gonna be the episode title. But here's where I see this being the use case, and this is sad. This is the use case for the office worker that has a lot of time on their hands and is is the Farmville aficionado and is now going to use this rather than Farmville. And what sucks and what might make this flourish, when I say flourish, I don't mean flourish in the way we would like it to flourish, but just to become a bigger pile of crap rather than removing the crap and becoming like a pile of jewels, is that the type of person that will actually maybe use this is going to really use this for just downloading. I foresee like the new tech support agent, so good luck with this. Actually, your company probably has stuff locked down more than this, is going to come to the computer, like maybe the small town tech support guy is going to come to the computer in some office somewhere, and some like person who's like checks in people and they're going to say their computer isn't working, and what's going to happen is their computer is going to be filled with all of the Toco Lifes, all of the Talking Toms, all of the makeovers, and 500 more apps like that are going to be installed on that computer, and 90% of those will be collecting information on that person. That is what's going to happen.
And this person is also going to have all 17 of the solitaire apps in the store downloaded.
God.
Yes.
17 solitaire apps.
So this is not going to be used for anything good. This is just going to be the worst case scenario. This is like the off-brand of Cheetos. Nobody
could
really
go the way of the
wants it.
Windows Store too, though. At the same time, like no one really uses the Windows Store, because
Unless you were getting Sea of Thieves in the before times.
well, yeah, but I don't know. I don't know. What do you think, Brandon?
I mean, there are good uses for it. Gaming, like you said, is one of the big ones that I had listed. Especially, there are actually fairly good games from very recognizable titles that you can't play anywhere else but on an Android. For instance,
What game?
Final Fantasy Brave Zuvius War of the Visions. That's a really weird long name.
You could go with like
these available?
PUBG Mobile. If you wanted to play the mobile version of PUBG, it is technically a different version. You might be more into that for whatever reason.
So being able to do that with mouse and keyboard.
Mouse and keyboard.
You are going to murder all the phone beeps. Oh, this is going to get nasty for that space. Especially, in Southeast Asia. Oh, I want to do this now. Oh, my God.
Yeah, I think it's funny because you say that, and I unfortunately don't have I was looking for an image of it, but Google is actually working on their app store for Windows, but it's just the games.
What? I guess
Which-
when I say why like that, at least, out of all the
not-
things that I say why, I want to say why with derision like that, but at the same time, most of our use cases for using this were games. So, sadly,
Kind of makes sense. I do wish there were more options. I wish Google would say, you know what, we're just going to open up the App Store, but here's what we're going to really work on and fine tune. Like, here's our list of, these 30 games work amazing.
so
on
it's
the
like what
emulator.
Valve's doing with the Steam Deck. Google
Exactly.
should do with their apps.
Well, something that's kind of weird about this whole thing is doesn't Windows 10 and 11, aren't they kind of doing like the My Phone app? Aren't you like able to emulate your actual phone and the apps directly from your
So-
phone?
You're not emulating it. It's a remote
It is-
session to
yeah,
your
that's what I
phone.
meant.
Yep. Yeah, you can. And that's
And
one
you
of
could
the big kind of like...
and you could save, and you could actually save the app program as a shortcut on your computer. So
Yep.
it's kind of like, what's the point of this up here? Again,
Yeah,
sorry if I took
there
another
is that argument.
part you made.
No. I mean, you did, but that's all right.
God damn it!
Again, Colton should just do this topic.
It's
Brandon,
because,
nice of you to
we
introduce
both
a
listen
topic
to
for
Windows
Colton to do.
Central, isn't it? It's because we both listen to Windows
is.
Central.
It
knew it.
absolutely is. Yeah, so what's interesting about the Google Play Store one specifically, though, is the hardware requirements include an SSD, 8 logical cores of CPU, 8 gigs of RAM, hardware virtualization has to be turned on, and a gaming class GPU.
You know what that
For
is?
Toca
I think-
Life Hospital?
Wait,
Now,
no,
I've
this is
never
the Google
played
Play
Toca
Store. This
Life.
is the Google Play Store, right? This is
Okay.
the
This
Amazon
is Google
one.
Play Store.
And I
not
think
Amazon.
that's Google, trying to protect their brand a little bit. because they don't want to have a bad experience.
Okay, so saying that it's like we're okay.
Still silly,
God,
but
we're saving ourselves from stupid people now. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, but that's just a disclaimer. I don't think there's going to be any like,
Oh, okay.
we're
You
going
have
to check and make sure. Oh, you don't have it, so you're not even going to be able to try. I think this is more like BlueStack's approach, where here's
Kinda-
our recommendation, but if you want to try and install it, go for it. Because when I had that ARM-powered laptop, I actually tried to install BlueStacks on it, thinking, ha ha ha, I'm emulating Android apps on an
Android.
ARM processor. This should be a fantastic experience. It sucked. It was so bad.
Maybe
But it was no problem with BlueStacks. It was just that ARM laptop.
The only other thing that I can think of using this for is maybe some messenger apps that don't have a computer counterpart.
Yeah.
Does Line
The only
have a
thing-
computer counterpart?
It does. Line
It
does.
does.
Okay, I was like, I hope
Yeah.
Line does, considering
And
it's
WhatsApp.
literally everything. Yeah.
It doesn't do this, but the thing I would love is if I could run, and that's just Apple doing his thing. If I could run Final Cut Pro on a Windows computer, but
Yep.
that would be great. Because I love
Well, and-
Final Cut Pro for video editing. It's my favorite editor, but you're stuck with Mac.
Now, one of my other thoughts was there are cheaper versions of software on the mobile platform versus PC that do the exact same thing. Like are almost line for line the same code.
Or I wonder how this comes into play. There was this app, like for example, called Paprika that I liked for curating recipes you find online. The problem with it is there's a Windows version, there's a Android version, there's an iOS version, and if you want either one of them, you got to pay for separate licenses.
Okay. Okay.
yeah.
So that
for
that-
apps
that
like
is
separate
yeah.
licenses.
Because
If you were
for
able
some
to
reason,
do
some of
that,
these some of these developers don't even have their Windows counterpart and their Android counterpart even be able to communicate with each other, like very very well. 'Cause I would like
or have the same
Duolingo.
feature sets.
Yeah, or that's the other thing. Like Duolingo is very great for the Android experience, but the Windows version of Duolingo, you can still like your progress is saved or whatever, but the actual features are like bare bones. Okay.
And then
Yeah.
also,
but I'm sure they have some protection against that because one of the photo editor software. I mean, if you want it on iOS, you got to buy this. You got to get two separate licenses, one for iOS, one for Windows.
But I don't think you would. That's what Brandon's saying. If with
Yeah.
these emulations and these stores, you don't have to do that anymore.
Yep. You could.
Affinity.
And that's why I'd really like Google to come into the space, because how much money do you guys
need
have
something better.
invested in Google apps versus Amazon App Store apps?
Oh,
I mean,
Amazon,
I live
yeah.
the Toka life, but
Only on
Yeah.
Android.
only
I mean,
on
it does get
only
4
on the
out of
Amazon
5
App Store.
stars.
But
I'm kind of curious how Toka Life plays now. Not curious enough to actually download it.
It's definitely
maybe
going with
curious
that
enough to watch a video.
kawaii stuff. Is that the term? Like just cute for the sake of being cute?
Not a.
Possibly. I don't know.
Okay, I
Not
know the
kawaii.
Thai
I can't remember.
word for it.
Oh, that's the
That's
word I'm trying to.
buffalo. That's buffalo
Yeah,
in Thai.
Japanese. It's kawaii. Kawaii. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, okay. That's differently. That's not Thai. You're saying. Okay.
Japanese.
That's what you're saying.
Japanese
Kwai,
anime.
which is actually an insult in Thai too.
Kawaii. Kawaii.
Hawaii.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Google should get into it so that we can have all of the stuff that we've already paid for and all the stuff that we enjoy on our phone able to natively play on our computers, because why not? Why shouldn't we be able to play whatever game we buy on whatever system we have?
So now
Yeah,
it would be
it's-
nice
it's
if it
crazy.
goes
The
opposite.
fucking money for it. Yes.
It's just like the music licensing, you know. I mean, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
The
We
CR
talked about that
Piracy
for-
episode.
Mhm.
We're doing all
Totally
sorts of
play.
callbacks. This is the callback episode.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of callback, should we call this back a night?
I don't know. Is there some other
That
part
was labored,
that you
but
wanted to
yes,
say that I ruined
let's
for
do
you?
that. Would you like to
No, I think
introduce
you
something
got
else
them
for
all
Colton?
covered.
Yes.
So
Next
Brandon, my
week.
name's Brandon Vader. I'm a contributor to. God damn it! I feel bad.
We're done.
No, don't.
I don't, but I do. But what I assume, since we're
Is that
at the
empathy or
pluggable part,
sympathy?
Yeah.
Is that empathy or
I'll save it.
sympathy?
I was gonna save that for the after part. But sympathy is
Okay.
sharing, empathy is understanding. That is according to the Merriam-Webster.com. They are
Okay.
technically actually two of the same. They're actually basically very similar. Sympathy is having common feelings. Basically, the act or capacity of entering into or sharing the feelings or interests of another, while empathy is more about that how you can imagine how they might feel based on what you know about that specific person. So they're actually pretty much the same, but it's more based on interactions with the person, according to the people who write the fucking dictionary. So I don't know, maybe they're legit. But yeah, there's a whole article.
That's
on
not
this
Oxford,
site.
though.
I'll
you're right.
do my own research. Thank you.
That's not the Oxford Dictionary.
Fake news.
Some American dictionary. It should be Oxford.
Oxford.
All right. Colton, where can we find you?
Name's Colton Roper. You can find me everywhere on the internet as Seeker4761 on all the social medias and most of the other things as well. I'm also a pretty regular Twitch streamer at twitch.tv/Seeker4761, and I'm also a contributor to thetechpirate.net. So check any of those things out if you want, or don't. You do you. Tim.
Real simple, easy hour tie journey. Instagram, Facebook page, and YouTube. Cody. Cody, yeah.
If you want to know
Cool.
about delicious foods, travels, go to his channel. In
Fruit
Thailand.
flies in me.
Oh, I thought you were being
I-
bashful.
There's a fly.
Oh, stop
shucks.
it, you.
I am Cody Stratman,
Damn
also
thing.
known as Zito Valder, also known as Striving to Fail. And you can find me on YouTube. You can find me on the, what is it? The Blizzard Games Launcher. You can find me on Steam as Psychonitrous, playing lots of Valheim recently. Or you can find me learning Thai. So that's where you can find me. Say hello if you're a cab driver or one of my teachers. Hi. I'm embarrassed now. But yes, so
Not in Thai.
that's me. Key I. There. Anyway, Brandon, you go. You.
Okay. I'm Brandon Vader, also known as Captain Dracanis. You can find me on thetechpirate.net as well as YouTube at The Tech Pirate. Hoping to have some more content in a little bit. I'm working on it. But yeah, thanks for joining us on this episode of This Week I'm Learning. You can find us wherever you listen to your podcasts as well as on YouTube at This Week I'm Learning. For you social media peeps out there, you can find us on Twitter at this TWIL. If you'd like to contact us, you can of course send an email to twil@thetechpirate.net. See you all next week. Bye-bye.
damn little fly. It's like a fruit fly or something flying around, driving me crazy. Anyways.
When I was a kid, I used to actually take off my shoe and fly it around when we sang that song. You know, shoe fly,
Shoe
don't
fly,
bother
don't
me.
bother me.
Oh, I was like,
Yeah,
what
I
the fuck
thought
are you
it was
talking
a
about?
shoe fly, not shoe
I
fly.
took
I
off
thought
my
like they made up
shoe.
this
That
magical
explains
creature
things.
that was a shoe
Fucking
fly,
throw a
and
shoe
I'm
at
like,
a fly,
like,
break all
where
the
does
lights in the
shoe-
house.
Where does the shoe fly come from? Like who thought of this? Who
were
thought of
way
a
too
shoe
literal.
fly?
As a child, and now.
Apparently.
Uh,
So Brandon, is it Captain Captain
Captain.
Dracanis or CAPT dot?
It is.
CAP
It is fully
apostrophe
spelled
N.
out. It is
Oh.
fully spelled out.
Okay, and is it IA or AI? English is hard.
AI.
AI. Use AI. for you.
CAPTAI. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
The right way, I think.
I
Maybe.
hope so. Maybe.
Too late. You've
English.
been saying you're consolidating under that, so it's whatever it is.
Well, now we know where you are.
I feel sympathy for
Yes.
that.
Ugh.
Because
Yeah.
sympathy means together or at the same time.
All right.
Greek
you
prefix
are correct.
that one
You-
finds
you
in synonym, symmetry, and symposium.
That's fair
Grab her,
enough.
motherfucker.
Simply out. Bye, guys.